remember sitting on the end of my bed before I saw Dr. Mortensen, and I was talking to my husband, and I was really crying and saying, I just don't think I can do this anymore. And he's saying, what do you mean you don't think you can do it anymore? And I said, I don't feel like this is living. I don't feel like this is something I want to continue to do every day. I dread getting up, I dread going to bed, and something has to change for me. And I just felt that desperation. I think one thing that my brother has taught me is, until you're at the point of suffering enough, until you've suffered enough, you will not be compliant and do something about it. And no one can share with you, no one can preach at you, no one can tell you. It's just you have to have had enough. And when you reach the point, you know, and you will do something about it. Hi, I'm Leslie, and I'm a patient of Dr. Mortensen's. So I was a Kaiser patient, and I'd spent about 3.5 years with an undisclosed nausea that Kaiser couldn't find. And I had gone through a battery of tests, including sonograms and esophageal cameras, and I'd also done a colonoscopy. They removed my gallbladder thinking that was it, and it wasn't. So what would happen is I'd go to bed, and then somewhere between 1 and 3 I'd wake up nauseous, and it would be so bad, and I would never vomit, but it would be to the point where I'd need to get up and go walk around the neighborhood. I couldn't sleep, anti-nausea meds were not working, and they kept telling me, we're not finding anything physiologically wrong with you. So I even started to question whether or not I was okay psychologically, like was I just imagining it? So my brother, Josh, found Dr. Mortensen online and was going to go see him for his own issues. And he said, I think it would be great if you tried integrative medicine. And so that's how I found Dr. Mortensen, and I'm so glad that I did. I really needed somebody, even if it was to give me a diagnosis, even if it was somebody to tell me what was wrong, that there was a big issue. I was willing to hear that, but I needed to hear that I had something so that I could understand how to treat it. When I felt like I was going in all these directions and nobody could even tell me what it was, so I didn't know how to effectively treat it because I needed the nausea to stop. It was just this ongoing nagging thing, and even in the daytime sometimes, and it had gotten to the point where I would go out and I would be socially anxious because I didn't know if it was going to happen. And I'd be in a situation and it would feel like everybody was talking, and then I would start sinking because it was happening to me. And you don't want to be that person that always has an issue. So my hope was that Dr. Mortensen could pinpoint it, finally put a finger on what's going on. Well, I realized that Western medicine in and of itself, by itself, all the tests that I had been through didn't solve it. And I felt that, for one thing, his manner and the way that he treated me, the way that he listened to me, the way that he answered my questions and took under advisement everything I was saying, I didn't feel like I was being talked to or at. I felt like I was being talked with and considered. And I understand Western medicine and normal protocol, they have a certain amount of things that they draw from, and that's what they're accustomed to. But with Dr. Mortensen, it was like a conversation, and we were working on it together, and I felt like, I feel like he can really get me somewhere. I feel like he has more in his arsenal too. So it was his approach, and I felt like there were tests and things that we hadn't done, and he made me feel like, also because I had read his testimony about his troubles as a little boy, and it just really touched me because he had something that I felt was even worse than what I had, and if he could get relief from it and he understood in the first person what it was like, I really wanted that, and I felt like he could help me. When I came to Dr. Mortensen and we started doing testing, I was really impressed because these were things that I hadn't done. Since I'd been through all this other stuff, I was like, why didn't anybody ever think of that? So he sent me for really detailed food allergy testing, including gluten, which no one had done, and also microbes, and we did all kinds of, we did fecal testing and just things that Kaiser isn't accustomed to doing. And I started immediately with some supplementation and some diet changes. I started feeling better. And once we got the results about gluten, that's when things really started to change for me, removing that from the diet. really just made a big difference. And then I think psychologically I was encouraged and motivated because I started to see improvement, where before it just constantly felt like I was just hitting a wall. And so probably maybe 2.5 or 3 months into treatment, I was like, I'm in the right place. And Dr. Mortensen was really impressed because we were getting results. And he was realistic. He said, I want you to taper this because what can happen is you can have a little setback. So he was always kind of there, hand-holding and accessible for questions. And I really appreciated knowing what he thought was up and coming. So to see the progress and then to have the information and to have somebody standing there who'd been through it was comforting. So yes, I feel like I've gotten an amazing result out of it. And to have the relief that I have to be able to sleep through the night and not wake up nauseous is just, it's honestly like a miracle. So that was my diagnosis, along with, I probably did have some parasites. I think most people do have some, and some people can live with it and some people cannot. It causes havoc. And also we're gonna be doing some heavy metal, taking heavy metals out of my system, so I'm looking forward to that. But so far, I would say I'm 95% improved, which is huge. So yes, good results. Finding Dr. Mortensen, not only finding a person whose character he's just upstanding, and I felt like he had so much integrity, and he was willing, he took it on like a mystery, like we're gonna solve this together, it's a puzzle, and he was serious about it. It wasn't just pull out my chart, yep, see you in 4 weeks. It was genuine. And I love the way he connects with his patients, and he's patient with his patients. Not only is he accessible, but every time my husband would come, my husband would have 1,000 questions, and he would answer every one of them. And I think finding a practitioner who treats the whole person like a person is huge. I understand doctors and clinicians have to they try to stay on track, and they have 1,000 patients and things to think about. But with Dr. Mortensen, I always felt like he was on time. I felt like he spent time with us. I was never rushed. And I still, at this time, since I'm an active patient, I feel like if I need something or I have a question or something's changing and I contact him, I get a solid answer, and I get a quick answer, and I'm just so grateful. So I just want to tell everybody, because it's just an honest testimony. It's something that genuinely happened to me in the first person, and I'm happy to tell anybody. And I'm always going to consider Dr. Mortensen, just a friend, just somebody that was sent. He has such a servant's heart too. I think it must be his mild manner. You just kind of think of him as like a brother or a friend. It's like, thank you for being there, and thank you for honestly, sincerely caring about your patients as people. I think that's just revolutionary to the industry. Doctors usually, not a lot of them have that type of compassion. It's a gift.